Now, the water has nearly put everyone out of work at the paper mill. Any word on when those employees can return to work?
That is an open-ended question right now, Regina, from corporate officials who are in town to assess the International Paper Plant, what used to be known as Union Camp. And unfortunately, the flooding is so bad in there that right now they don't even know the extent of the damage.
We had to make sure to get everything tied down, and we went on ahead and got on out.
Lorenzo Everett is videotaping damage to the lumber shipping section where he works. The powder blue sky and puffy clouds belie the torrential rain that flooded the plant and knocked the doors right off a drying kiln.
I think the water got up underneath them and kind of floated them apart.
So they're supposed to be straight up and down?
Yes, sir.
We asked permission to go inside the plant to see the flooding, but the manager tells us there are pitch dark spaces in there underwater that they haven't even seen because it's too dangerous.
Until the water recedes, we're just waiting.
John Anderson hasn't seen the basement areas.
We've done no sounding, but 15 plus feet in some areas of the mill, which means that electrical motors are underwater and will need to be dried out, lubricated, checked out before we can start the plant back up.
That could take weeks, and that has Lorenzo Everett worried.
Hey, missed that check. Got to get back. Hope we get back soon as we can.
Unfortunately, Regina, getting back as soon as we can could take a matter of weeks, and that, of course, is causing a lot of anxiety for hourly employees who haven't been on the clock since last Thursday. Coming up at 6, we will have a story with spokespeople from International Paper about what they might be able to do as a corporation to help out those people who are facing a financial crisis right now. Now, of course, downtown Franklin has been getting a lot of the attention in the news coverage these past few days simply because it has affected so much of the core of the city. But there are a lot of outlying areas in Southampton County that have also suffered terrible damage. And 13 News' Sandra Parker covered some of that today. And Sandra, you saw some devastation of your own out there today.
I really did. As we can see here, Dale, there's a lot of devastation in downtown Franklin, but really on the outskirts in Southampton County, you see a lot more damage. Unbelievable. Houses buried underwater up to the rooftop. Now, downtown Franklin is being flooded because of the Blackwater River, but in other parts of Southampton County, residents are having to contend with the Nottoway River. Now, many roads have been turned into waterways and making a boat the only way that you can travel through them. Craig Livesay and Larry Schaefer took us out on their boat so that we could see firsthand the devastation that residents here are facing.
Well, said about 150 homes I've heard washed out. And our jobs at the mill can't work right now. Well, I'm going to be all right. I'm not that worried. I think everybody will pull together. We'll come out of this all right.
And that is what you are seeing, a lot of residents pulling together and helping each other out, especially in one community, the Dockside community. That community is about a mile west of where the Nottoway and the Blackwater meet, and it is flooded out completely. We're going to take you there at 6 o'clock and talk with some of the residents there and find out how they are coping with all this devastation. Back to you, Regina.
Thanks, Sandra Parker, reporting live in Franklin tonight. Have a pen and paper handy because later in the newscast we'll give you the emergency phone numbers to use in Franklin, Isle of Wight County, and Southampton County.
And we have some incredible pictures now of some rescues of flooding victims in North Carolina. It was Navy personnel from Helicopter Squadron HC-2, the Fleet Angels, saving people right and left over the weekend in Tarboro. They worked almost around the clock with E-2C Hawkeye Squadron VA-126, the Seahawks. Both groups are assigned to Naval Station Norfolk. In all, they estimated they rescued more than 250 people from roofs, garage tops, cars, and trees. Now that the rescue phase is over, they turn their attentions to humanitarian relief. Beginning tomorrow, they'll be flying in food, water, blood supplies, and medical supplies.
As if the flooding isn't bad enough in Franklin and surrounding areas, there is now word more rain could be on the way. 13's chief meteorologist Jeff Lawson joins us for an update. Jeff?
Yeah, not only more rain, perhaps some more heavy rain. Nothing like we had before, but it's not going to take a whole lot to cause problems. So we are under a flash flood watch. That's for the entire viewing area, and it's from another tropical system. Believe it or not, Harvey, Tropical Storm Harvey down in the Gulf of Mexico, going to swing a lot of moisture back to the north. You can look at it, in fact, on the regional radar out of the southeast. And remember, the storm is still way off the bottom of this screen, and you're already seeing the rains advect up through eastern North Carolina, through the Atlanta area, down to Savannah, some of that rain will indeed move over us later tonight, tomorrow, and into tomorrow night. And there could be an inch or more, maybe a few inches of rain in some locations. If that happens, it's going to exacerbate an already very difficult situation. Back to you all.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
And there's some positive news. These past several days of sunny weather has allowed Virginia Power to put a major dent in the outages due to Hurricane Floyd. Here's how things stand at last check. 1,600 customers in Virginia are still without electricity. In North Carolina, the number is 7 down.
Still to come on this special edition of 13 News at 5, political leaders weigh in on the flooding. President Clinton takes to the air over eastern North Carolina. We'll tell you what the federal government...
Also closed Interstate 64, Newport News, and that is where we find 13's Michelle Louie. It's not just 64 that kept VDOT workers busy these past 5 days. Right, Michelle?
Well, that's right, Barbara. There are still several roads here on the peninsula that are far from being reopened. VDOT tells me they've been so busy lately, they haven't even had a chance to think of future plans should Interstate 64, like this section right behind me, become flooded like it did with Floyd. Now, that is a major concern because it is an evacuation route, something they do hope to consider, or address rather, once things settle down with the road repairs. Now, one area that is getting some immediate attention is James City County. Take a look at this street. It's Jamestown Road right over Lake Powell. It's been completely washed out, leaving a big gap of about 35 feet wide. Now, it caused all sorts of confusion for drivers today who thought the road was reopened because the water had receded.
Pretty much a pain in the butt. You kind of have to take these little ways around where you go 5-10 miles out of your way just to get a place that normally takes you, you know, a couple minutes just to get there. Now it takes 20 minutes.
Motorists can now get through on I-95 from Wilson, North Carolina to Petersburg, Virginia, but only one lane is open in each direction. Officials say there are still nearly 300 roads in North Carolina alone that are still considered impassable. Today in Richmond, Governor Gilmore was hoping to talk about his new anti-drug initiative.
Example, in Rocky Mount, for example, the Tar River, the worst flooding they've ever had. It starts at 15 feet. Flooding is anything above 15 feet. 24 feet was the worst flooding in history, in recorded history anyway. So that's 9 feet of floodwaters. The gauge is all washed out. They think it was around 36 feet, something like that. So 12 feet more than the worst flood in history. I mean, that's just unbelievable how deep the water is. So they don't need more rain, but more is in the forecast. In fact, showers are already developing down across that area. You'll see them in a minute on regional radar. You'll see them on SkyMax. They should move up over parts of Hampton Roads a little bit later this evening, and especially overnight. It'll also be breezy and cool with a low about 64 degrees. Now, we'll start with the wider view, and you'll be able to see that we certainly have no precipitation at the beginning of this film loop. But as I put everything in motion just over the past hour or two, you'll notice everything down to the south of Raleigh over toward Greenville, and continuing to work its way on to the north and the east. SkyMax weather radar also looking way out on the horizon. And here's Bertie County absolutely inundated with this last couple of storms. And just to their south and west, the rain is already moving in. And as I said, it will be overspreading the rest of the region. So let's go back to the forecast map.
17 was closed. I traveled Route 168. What a mistake on this day. Bumper to bumper to bumper.
Spent the whole weekend in it, back and forth, just trying to get to my house. Even the back ways you can't go.
By noon, I realized I would not make it down to Hertford, so I stopped in the Ballahack Road area. Folks were using the phones to explain why they were running late.
Very frustrating trying to get your work done. They probably should do this work at night.
I didn't expect all the routes to Virginia to be closed off. I've been down to 17 and it's closed. There's another little road you could go through back there that's closed off. And I got to get her to an eye appointment at 2 o'clock. At least they extended me an hour. I don't know if I'll make it in an hour.
This was the culprit. The city of Chesapeake was paving one lane near Northwest River to avoid further flooding in the future. Down to one lane.
As far as the eye can see, it was 3.
Coming up on News Channel 3 News at 5:30, we're going to take you on a boat ride through the town of Franklin. And folks, let me tell you, it's a sight you've never seen before.
Operation Blessing is dedicated to feeding.
Rivers flood Carolina towns, and more rain is actually on its way. Collapsed roads halt transportation. Crews race the clock to reopen dozens of roads and bridges. And the city of Franklin is devastated by this flood. Find out how you can help. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Leanne Rains.
And I'm Tom Randles, live in Franklin, where hundreds of businesses and homes are still underwater days after Floyd left his watery calling card.
And Tom, we know you'll have more on that in just a moment, but we're going to begin tonight in Portsmouth. The big question there, when will the water be safe to drink again? Let's get right to News Channel 3's Bob Matthews, who is live. Too much water. And Tom, for the past half hour, I heard you describing with tremendous description just the devastation that you see there in Franklin, a terrible sight.
A terrible sight indeed, Leanne, and you just got to feel for the folks here in Franklin. Our hearts go out to them because they've really had to endure quite a lot. This is one of the hardest hit areas, as we've been mentioning throughout our coverage on Floyd, hardest hit by Hurricane Floyd. It's a small community, about 8,000 folks, about 46 miles southwest of Norfolk, Virginia, for those who've never driven down to Franklin. And this is what's causing the problem, folks. The flooding in the Blackwater River. Take a look at some of the pictures we've got for you, and we'll tell you that tonight there is some good news for Franklin, and that is that the waters are receding. But right now the residents want to know, of course, when they can get back into their homes and businesses, what's left after Floyd. Right now, this is the only way to get around in downtown Franklin, by boat. Our News Channel 3 crews got a tour earlier today. Cars and homes abandoned, left in a hurry as flood waters started to rise. Debris being washed from homes, it now litters the waters. And earlier, Senator Chuck Robb visited the city to survey the damage as well. So there's a lot going on here in downtown Franklin. And we have to talk about the flooding that's already occurred. You know, you're talking about 16 inches of rain that fell in a 12-hour period. And that is what flooded the Blackwater River. And of course, the Nottoway River, which is what the Blackwater River would have normally receded into, it has just gotten to the point where it's starting to crest. And so the Blackwater River hasn't had much of a chance to really go down that much. But as the mayor said during our live interview at 5 o'clock, the river has gone down a few inches, I think, in fact, as much as 18 inches. So that is good news. At least it's going in the right direction. Chief Meteorologist Dave Parker is standing by live right now in the Triple Doppler Weather Center to bring us up to date on the flooding. And we have news of more rain. Is that right, Dave?
That is unfortunately right. That rain is heading our way tomorrow. Heaviest rain is going to be tomorrow night for those areas around Franklin and Cortland, the Ahoskie area. Those of you in Sebril, you're looking at least...
But first, they may be in for even more rain. That's the bad news for a town with 182 downtown businesses underwater and nearly 150 homes destroyed by the flooded Blackwater River. 10 on your side's Carter Evans continues our team coverage live from Franklin. Carter.
One of the first things you notice when you're here in Franklin is how dependent you are on electronic equipment, particularly electronic communications equipment, which is just simply not available with all this water around. So in order to update people on the situation, they're having to hold daily town meetings to give them all the information. Now, the crowd was spilling into the hallway at today's meeting, and there was lots of progress to report. First off, the radio is back on the air here, and they're running a continuous news loop to keep people up to date on the progress. That's on 101.7 FM. And by tonight, electricity should be restored to about 95% of Southampton County. That's good news. Of course, that doesn't include any of downtown Franklin, which is still underwater. But more good news, the Blackwater River is receding slightly. So is the Nottoway River. Actually, the Nottoway River is more nearing its crest right now. And the phone company, GTE, is out here 24 hours a day. They're bringing people in from across the country to try and rebuild. Now, back out here live, you can see where the phone crews are working. They are working in manholes underground here, trying to bring it back up online. If you tried to call anyone out here, you know how complicated it is because you have to do it on cell phone. There are only a few cell towers up, and that makes cell phone traffic very busy. Now, some more good news for students, I guess. Schools will likely be closed until the end of this week. Live out here in Franklin, I'm Carter Evans, Wavy News Channel.
All right, thanks a lot, Carter. Franklin's phone system is down, but there are a few numbers.
I just came back from a boat tour right down there on the waters in the flooded waters of downtown Franklin. I'll tell you all about it coming up next.
You're watching Wavy
Water.
Reporting live from the areas hit hardest. Accurate, dependable forecasts from the Super Doppler 10 weather team. Early warning of evacuation.
The weather says the Blackwater River crested at more than 23 feet and is receding, but up to 2 inches of rain could fall starting tonight. and that might trigger even more flooding. 10 on your side's Mary Kay Maloney joins us live from Franklin with an update. Mary Kay?
Well, Les, I went on a boat tour with the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, and it was wild to go down there and sail right up to the front of a clothing store. You could see inside, you could see up close how devastating this flood is to an entire downtown. The soaked merchandise from the shops has been floating out into the street. Cleanup crews have been going around in boats trying to clean that up, as well as clean up the fuel and chemicals floating in the water. The National Guard is here, the Red Cross is here, several departments with the state, local firefighters and rescue crews. The phone company is still out here trying to restore the phone service. After 4 days, people with no phones, no 911 system. U.S. Senator Chuck Robb also flew into town this afternoon. We caught up with him as he got off the chopper just after taking a tour of Franklin from the air.
Flooding is frequently the most devastating type of losses because the structure is frequently still there, but it's uninhabitable. All of the belongings that people in many cases have saved over a lifetime, all of the things they've gotten used to, some of them are there, but they're destroyed, and it would be unhealthy to even go back into some of those residences.
Right now, people with homes and businesses are still not allowed to come down to the flooded area, not even allowed on boats. It's just too dangerous. As the water slowly starts to come down, though, police are starting to worry a little bit more about looting and people trying to get in to those flooded structures, but the area still is off limits. They're waiting for the water to come down, wash away, and finally let those people back into their homes and businesses to find out if there was anything at all they can salvage. Live in Franklin, Mary Kay Maloney, Wavy News 10.
Even historic blocked up roads, 49 deaths from the Bahamas to New England are being blamed on Floyd. We have team coverage tonight on how to deal with the mess that Floyd left behind.
13's Catherine Barrett is in Portsmouth, where city leaders just declared the water is safe to drink. Reaper is Franklin's largest employer. How is it coping with the flooding?
Well, it is coping as best it can, Barbara, considering there's about 15 feet of water in parts of its industrial complex right in the heart of Franklin. And, of course, for 1,800 hourly employees, there is a great concern about how they're going to get through the next few weeks during the worst crisis in their company's history.
There's a report check here daily for information.
In this age of instant information, this is how Jerry Olson is getting the word about his job at International Paper. He hasn't been on the clock since he evacuated last week.
Certain. Yeah, we got bills, to pay, and it's going to be hard to make up. You can't make up what you lose.
I'm losing $23 an hour, and, of course, it's hard on all of us.
There's a steady stream of cars at the plant's security checkpoint for a small contingent of workers.
We've been in the dry areas, the upper floors, doing fire watch. One thing we don't need to do is burn the place down.
But hundreds of other employees are not parked here and on the job. They could be out of work for weeks. An International Paper tells us it's working on ways to help them through this crisis.
We're also investigating the possibilities of some employee relief here. It's just too early to differentiate what those opportunities might be.
Come on, tomorrow.
Ronnie Powell is taking this opportunity to be with his kids while he checks the notice to see when he'll be able to go back to work.
I'm pretty sure we'll hurt long term, but we take it one day at a time, see what we can do. That's about the best we can do.
Now, Ann Stevens with International Paper told me that it is fortunate in this circumstance that it is such a huge company with what she called almost unlimited resources. You can expect there might be some kind of relief available for employees during this terrible crisis, but we'll have to wait a little longer, maybe a few more days before the company works that out. Now, there are many other concerns for a lot of other people in Franklin on many different levels. And 13's Carlton Houston was looking into some of those issues at a big meeting that they had for the community today. What came out of that, Carlton?
That's right, Dale. Standing room only at Franklin High School. And that's where they sort of updated the 8,500 or so residents of Franklin on where the progress stands right now. Behind me, you hear a little bit of noise. The GTE company is working on phone lines as we speak, and that's important to Franklin schools. No school tomorrow, in part because there's no reliable form of communication involved. They also have to reroute buses, and there's a school where floodwaters touch the playground. All of that combined means there will be no school in Franklin tomorrow. Now, the officials are also using a local cable channel to help update residents on progress if they have cable and power. There's also federal and state help, and besides that, there's a group called the Virginia Main Street Program, It's a group that is checking with other downtown Main Street communities like the one here in Franklin to find out how they survived disasters like a major flood. But there are still crucial safety issues at hand. One, safety emergency officials are checking on missing people as we speak, and all of that happens before we can even get to the cleanup stage, and we of course have to wait for waters to go down. 18 inches so far in downtown Franklin, but there are still several feet of water left to go. That's the story here from Franklin. We'll now toss it back to you.
All right, thanks, Carlton. Flooding has crippled phone service in Franklin and parts of Southampton County. So here are some ways to reach emergency services for life-threatening situations. In Southampton County, you can call 804-658-3110. Isle of Wight County's number is 757-357-2151, and Franklin residents can call 757-377-8762. Please remember that these numbers are only for life-threatening emergencies.
Hurricane Floyd didn't exactly skip over the rural areas surrounding Franklin, and that is where we find 13th Sandra Parker joining us live at this hour. Now, you were in the dockside area of Southampton County. What exactly did you see there, Sandra?
A lot of devastation, Barbara. As you know, we've seen how bad it looks here in downtown Franklin, and we've even seen some of those areas outside of Franklin by air. But today we went by boat to see firsthand just how bad that devastation is all along the Nottoway River. So many roads are flooded out in Southampton County that you need a boat to get around, and fishing off the front porch is no problem. Thanks to the help of two boaters, Craig Livesay and Larry Schaefer, we were able to make it down the Nottoway River and to one community that remains underwater, Dockside.
This was chill bumps all over me looking at this.
Larry's in-laws used to live in this house. Now, like the other 30 or 40 homes here, it's underwater, and the sight of it is more than Bonnie Nagley can take.
It looked like death. That's what it looks like down there. You would never believe it unless, even just standing here and looking, you would not believe it till you can actually open the door of a house and see everything you own floating.
The children seem to be less affected by this than the adults. Doris and Rex Axshore say that's because the adults realize the situation isn't going to improve anytime soon.
As each day goes by, people are getting a little more down and a little more depressed. I think once everybody gets back in their house, it's very quiet down here anyway. The only noise you'll hear are people crying just because of what they see.
Everybody down here has helped everybody tremendously. That's the only way you get through it.
Now, the Ashworths tell me that the National Guard did come by for the first time today to drop off water and check on residents. They want everyone to know that they are doing okay, but they are not looking forward to when that water goes down and they see just how bad the damage is. Back to you.
Sandra, thank you. And when you see pictures like that, of course you want to help. And if you would like to help the residents of Franklin, Crestar Bank in Suffolk is collecting supplies, and you may also drop off supplies at Fire Station number 1 on Market Street in Suffolk. The Suffolk branch on North Main Street is opening its doors to disaster relief. From 9 to 3, you can drop off donations of canned goods, water, diapers, anything that may help the flood victims. Crestar will deliver them to Franklin tomorrow evening.
In Portsmouth, city officials spent most of the day to... So we're going to look at some of the dangerous conditions here when we come back, and you'll be surprised at what we're talking about, folks. Stay with us. It's been a hectic day here in Franklin. In fact, my producer asked me to just pass along this information to you. She said, Tom, what's it like there now? Well, I can tell you there's a lot of activity going on. We have the American Red Cross that just left the area. You can see the GTE phone people working on trying to restore, GTE phone people trying to restore service in back of us. There's a buzz of activity here. Folks are taking advantages of the services that are available, but they are still very hard hit, and a lot of people are walking around still scratching their heads. The devastation from the flooding is just that bad. Water, though, is not the only problem. We're talking, of course, about the Blackwater River. It's not the only problem. It's what's inside the water that is also causing problems. News Channel 3's Sarah Thrasher has more on the environmental mess.
Well, if damage from the floodwater isn't worry enough for residents and merchants here in Franklin, what is now a big concern is the contamination in the water. We're told that now petroleum products, fertilizer, even pesticides could be in there. Emergency officials say this is going to be a big problem. The rising floodwaters have come to an end, but the cleanup isn't anywhere near beginning. The problem? unknown chemicals in the water.
That's the big problem, is that everyone thinks, well, when the water's down, we can go back in. That's just when the beginning starts, the recovery. Everyone's going to see the damage and not be able to get to it for a time until DEQ and environmental quality can come in and assess the damages and give us the procedures for the cleanup to prevent the contaminants from doing any harm to the people that move back into their buildings. And that's what we're working on starting today.
Unfortunately, though, today isn't soon enough for residents and merchants who have lost everything. Owner of Fred's, a once popular local hangout, says his and other buildings may have to be condemned because of the unknown chemical hazards lurking in the water. But, he adds, they will rebuild.
I think most everybody that's in town has the attitude that, you know, everybody's been good here in Franklin. They've been mighty good to the merchants. The merchants have been good to the people. So hopefully everybody will come back strong. It may take a while, but I think we can do it.
But not until health officials deem the buildings safe.
It's a hazmat deal right now for a couple of days until the water drops, and then the city officials are going to have to okay each building or home before somebody can go back into it.
And city officials tell me they are now setting in motion recovery plans and long-range plans for residents and merchants who have had damage from these floods. In Franklin, Sarah Thrasher, News Channel 3.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah. It's time now to go back to the...
To assess the level of damage there. But you can see homes underwater and certainly imagine the devastation. And then hundreds are going to bed and waking up each day in shelters. What is life like for these newly homeless? But first, let's head straight to meteorologist Dave Parker for some new information on rain in the forecast. Dave?
We're not as concerned about the rain tonight as we were at this time yesterday. The reason being the amount of rain has not come together. The flash flood watch has been canceled. But nevertheless, any amount of rain would certainly aggravate the situation, which continues to...
Franklin, with News Channel 3's Ed Hughes. Ed, as Dave has said, the rain must be very disheartening for the residents there.
Well, that is true. We lucked out today, Leanne. We didn't get any. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But being up here on television, we are their only communications link. And one of the union representatives from International Paper came over and he wanted this announcement, and I said, we'll do it. The Particle Board plant hourly employees are to meet 7 a.m. tomorrow morning at the Union Hall. They'll get their orders as the International Paper plant is desperately trying to get back into operation. Now, we talk about the floodwaters in Franklin. We also talk about the floodwaters in Southampton County, and that, too, is widespread. And covering that part of the story is News Channel 3's Sarah Thrasher.
Thank you, Ed. We have a little bit of good news, though, coming out of Southampton County today. We had 2 boats that we were going on for a tour to see some of the devastated areas there. They had to turn one of the bigger boats around because of the receding water lines, and so it was just too heavy to be in the water. So at least the water is receding there, but nonetheless, about 185 homes there have been destroyed because of the flooding. Let me show you why this is flooding. We have a map that shows you all of the different rivers that run through. You can see there we've got the Blackwater River, the Nottoway River, and the Meherrin River, and they all run through this Southampton County, and when all of them are flooded, they converge through this county, and they're just causing mass devastation. Now, when we were on this boat tour today, it was just amazing driving through the middle of these streets and seeing homes with water literally up to the rooftops. You can see it right there, and it really doesn't look like the water has gone down much. In fact, it's going to take a long time before this water recedes enough so the people can get back into their homes. But these people do have assistance. If you have been in these floods, FEMA is offering assistance, and there is a 1-800 number that you can call. It is 1-800-462-9029, so you can get assistance. Now, also, Southampton County, they do not have phones here, but if you have a cell phone and you have a non-emergency, you can call 757-569-0120, or for an emergency, 757-569-0133. So there are ways to get help here in Southampton County, and slowly but surely, they will be getting back into their homes. But again, the waters are slowly receding, and so it looks like they're going to have a hard time getting back into those homes. We'll bring you more from Southampton County at 6 o'clock, but now let's hand it back to Ed, who's got more from Franklin. Ed?
All right, the one good thing, the waters did start to recede today, but you got to remember, a lot of people are homeless up here. More than 180 homes were flooded out, and lots of volunteers have pitched in to help, and now the shelter has been moved from the high school to the YMCA. Lots of organizations have come together, including the Virginia Baptist Disaster Response Team and the Red Cross. They serve almost 600 meals 3 times a day, most of them delivered to those people who can't leave the homes and who are under 24-hour curfew. The Y is organized activities for the kids who are sheltered here and those who come in for just a few hours each day.
We're trying to return a little bit of sense of normalcy to the community. Anybody is welcome to bring their kids to the Y from 1 to 4 until the kids go back to school from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. And we're going to have arts and crafts, quiet games. If the weather's nice like today, we'll play soccer, tennis, whatever we can do. But to give mom and dad a few minutes off and let the kids let them get out of the house.
People here have never seen a flood like this before, and for most of the kids, they were scared.
Well, really, it's just unbelievable because you never think that such a small place like Franklin would get hit that bad. And when I saw it in person, it didn't look as bad as it did when you see it from above on TV. So, I mean, it was just overwhelming.
I have a family out, well, my uncle and aunt live out in Kingsdale, and they didn't have any evacuation. They just had to grab what they could grab and leave. And I'm kind of mad because of that.
How do you feel right now about yourself? You think this is going to go away soon?
Well, I hope it does, so my dad can get back to work.
Well, some people are slowly getting back to work, and it's going to be a long time for this town to recover. We'll meet Mr. Main Street, Fred Rabel, at 6 o'clock. I'm Ed Hughes. Leanne, back to you.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to that report at 6 o'clock.
Is the largest employer in Franklin. You won't believe what they're doing to help out this community. I'm Andy Fox. I'll have that story coming up on Wavy News 10 at 5:30.
The morgues in Taiwan.
Homes under as much as 15 feet of contaminated water.
And the flooding also closed Franklin's biggest employer, the huge International Paper Mill just outside of downtown. The paper mill is expected to remain closed until next week for all but just a few workers. And today the company announced it's making a huge donation to help the town rebuild. 10 on your side's Andy Fox joins us live from Franklin with the story. Andy.
Okay, Carolyn. Yeah, that is the good news. The Department of Environmental Quality, before we get to that, they could be doing their work and testing the waters and everything for the next 30 days. That is the outside limit. Businesses may not be able to go down there possibly for the next 30 days, but that is the outside limit. That's the best that we can determine right now. The town could take 9 months to fully reopen, and some businesses may not reopen at all. That's the total tragedy, this entire flood. As far as International Paper goes, no one will be fired. No one will lose their job because of this flood. The plant will try to reopen its doors as soon as possible. It may be 2-3 weeks. They don't know how long it'll take for everyone to get back. And the plant, contrary to rumors, will not shut down. There's some rumors going around that they would shut down. That is not the case. They will not shut down, but there are millions of dollars in damage from a business that now calls Franklin home. This once was Union Camp, recently bought by International Paper. Today, it's a big mess. The paper plant sits idle, flooded, cut trees soaking in oil-contaminated water. 2,000 local residents not working, not getting paid.
On the other hand, we can't get the mill started until we can get into some of the service areas and some of the pulp mill that's still underwater.
International Paper's top man, John Dillon, also announced company-wide contributions totaling $250,000 for the town of Franklin.
We'll be making a contribution of $250,000 to a relief agency, an established relief agency in the town.
It's hard telling how much damage Floyd did to International Paper. Safe to say, it's in the millions.
Oh, it's millions. There's no question that it's millions of dollars, but how many zeros are behind that, it's just hard to tell at this point.
The details on opening International Paper are still in the works. One of the considerations is how much contaminant has saturated the wood. That is a major consideration when they figure out exactly how they're going to go forward.
We've never had the kind of damage or the kind of issue that we've got in Franklin in a big, huge facility like that. But this is serious. There's a lot of damage. It's going to take time to get this facility back and running.
It could take weeks before everyone gets back to work there. They don't know how long it'll take. International Paper does have some workers back there now. We do want to pass this very important information along. Particle Board plant employees, again, Particle Board plant employees with the union will have a meeting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. at the Union Hall. Those are the only folks that should show up at the Union Hall tomorrow at 7 a.m., the Particle Board plant employees. That's the latest from Franklin. I'm Andy Fox, Wavy News 10.
Had been done. The men who were first here and saw these caskets over by the edge of the road, they were too shy to go on camera, but they tell me they did their best to treat these with respect and put them back where they belong.
They actually went into the woods on one occasion to help drag the vault tops and to try to put them back in place so that we would be able to determine which graves they came from. So they were a great help to us. And we want to say thank you from the bottom of our heart for Mount Gilead Church family.
Families are just learning about the disruption of the graves. The caskets that floated out of the vaults appear to still be sealed, but the vaults are open, filled with flood water. Others are intact but forced out of the ground, an unsettling reminder of the strength of the storm.
We're going to continue to persevere, and with God's grace, we will come out on top.
The church wants families with loved ones buried at Mount Gilead Cemetery to please go down and check the graves. My colleague Dale Gauding joins me now. We've seen some unsettling sights. Caskets are certainly one of the most unsettling things I've seen out here.
I think that just about tops it if you include just the terrible sight of the floodwater over our shoulder here in downtown Franklin, which of course we've been seeing all week and regrettably doesn't look a whole lot different than it did when we got here several days ago. But we were in other places today, including Southampton County, which is served by the Blackwater, the Nottoway, and the Meherrin rivers, all of which are in flood. And Southampton has monumental problems of its own. 185 homes are damaged or flooded.
No, I really don't. I mean, I'm okay. Whatever it is, I'm okay about it.
Cynthia Person was prepared for the worst when she joined a media tour of her flooded neighborhood, Kingsdale. She hadn't seen it since she evacuated last week.
And my house is right beside the duplex.
And it was just as bad as she feared. Her brother's car submerged, her house inundated in floodwaters that are actually starting to recede. Cynthia was stoic and strong for her daughter, she said. And when a long and difficult boat trip was over, she told two of her neighbors their house had survived with only minimal damage, but damage nonetheless.
I feel a lot better. I think not knowing was worse than knowing. Even if it was worse than it is now, at least we would have known.
We had water in the living space before we came out. Friday evening, water had already started coming in there, but just how much it covered, we're not sure. And she said it don't look like the whole house is engulfed, so that made me feel better.
It will take a while for anyone to feel better in Southampton, where 75% of the roads are impassable because of high water, where 15 bridges are still submerged, and a major employer, Hancock Peanuts, is flooded a month before harvest time. County officials, Terry, are still assessing the damage to the soybean, peanut, and corn crops in Southampton County, much of which went underwater. VDOT estimates $3.7 million in road damage in Southampton County, and that is just what they can see. We're still dealing with those 15 bridges they haven't seen yet, which, of course, have undergone tremendous stress from these flooded rivers and may well have damage of their own. There are washouts everywhere, and Southampton County is going to be a long time trying to get itself recovered from this, just as Franklin and the entire surrounding area in Southside Virginia. Terry?
What a mess. Dale, Priscilla, live tonight in Franklin.
Hurricane Flake. 12 feet of water in the Assamustic Swamp, that's near Cortland. National Guard soldiers pulled her from the vehicle, but efforts to revive her failed. The little girl was visiting relatives in the area. They're watching the water carefully in one section of southern Chesapeake tonight. The fear is that water from
at the meeting this afternoon. Let me show you the biggest piece of news. We've been showing it to you all day. You can see the water is going down, and as you go all the way across the water, you can begin to see a yellow stripe on the far side. That's the farthest that I've seen the water go down, and I've been here off and on for the last 5 days. Taking a look at some of the video shot earlier today, though, you can see it hasn't gone down quite far enough. The water is still up all over downtown. Those 181 businesses, a lot of them still underwater. The water is going down, as I mentioned, but here's where the frustration will be beginning to set in. as that water goes down, and even when it gets gone completely, people won't be allowed into their businesses until testing is complete, 2 sets of it. Some in the soil, some in the water, and then they'll go to every single business that's been affected to see what kind of chemicals and environmental hazards may have been left behind. When all of that is finished, no idea when, people will be allowed back into their businesses to start cleaning up. They want to make sure they get all of this right.
Well, number one, we can't control how quickly the flood waters recede, and so certainly that's something beyond our control. And the second piece is that this planning effort is only in its infancy. It only got started last night with some very local resources, and it's beginning to blossom. In fact, it's tripled in scale almost in the last 24 hours. And as these resources are brought to bear, more and more resources increase the level of effort that we can put forth. And with all of those variables in place, I couldn't fathom a guess, and I wouldn't want to.
Still no firm answer on when people can get back in, even if their businesses start to dry out. Certainly those meetings will become increasingly important over the next couple of days. Phones are out with the same situation for a long time. Live in Franklin, I'm Ted Oberg, Wavy News 10.
All right, thank you, Ted.
And if you'd like to help the flood victims in Franklin and other local areas, here are some places where you can drop off donations.
Well, we'll show you more drop-off locations throughout this newscast.
That's right, you can go to the Red Cross area. Also coming up, a school bus and Subaru collide this afternoon. Find out why the police are still searching for some of the...
For them. Things there are still a disastrous mess. Much of the city, as you have seen, still underwater.
Hundreds of people forced out of their homes are still stuck in shelters waiting for any good news. Our live Team 3 coverage continues in Franklin now with News Channel 3's Ed Hughes. Ed, what's the mood there in Franklin tonight?
Well, it's getting a little bit better, and I got a little bit of history here for you. Years ago, when trains stopped in this part of Virginia, crossroads and small towns were formed. Years ago, a man got off a train, Fred Rabel, and he created the centerpiece of Main Street known as Fred's Restaurant. Fred, everybody said if he rebuilds, there's hope. You going to rebuild?
We hope to. We're going to try.
Now, you've been in business down there for 50 years, and there was talk at one time that this could be the end of Main Street as we take a look at some of the flood footage. But Hurricane Floyd could renew an interest that people would come back and rebuild.
I think so. That's what we're hoping for. I think they will. They'll come back. We're going to do our part.
All right. The one other thing we want to pass on to you before we go, there have been some reports of looting that happened last night. Some arrests been made. Police from Emporia, State Police, the MPs, National Guard, and the local police are here. So if you're thinking about that, forget it. Okay, that's the mood here. It's getting better. They hope the flood waters recede, but it's going to be a long time before they get back on their feet. Reporting live from Franklin, Ed Hughes, News Channel 3.
Let's hope that Fred's optimistic view of the future of Franklin is right on. All right, thanks, Ed, for that live report.
Well, in case you were wondering, folks, there is a way you can help area flood victims. News Channel
Badly. 10 on your sides, Tom Coben joined one of those residents as State Police and the National Guard took her by boat to the home she evacuated last Friday.
I'm thinking that there's the duplex. I can see the duplex.
The city of Franklin will not force the paper mill out of town. This morning, officials with International Paper assured workers the plant will bounce from Floyd. And 13's Dale Godding joins us now live from Franklin. That's great news, Dale. What's the latest?
There is a lot of breaking news in downtown Franklin tonight, Barbara, including the receding waters on 4th Avenue. You can actually see Main Street back there. But the big news this morning was that contrary to the rumors, International Paper is far from dead. We saw forklifts scurrying around the lumber yard, moving stock that wasn't flooded. We saw one tractor trailer full of product headed for the bypass on Route 58. Alternative parking signs are going up in anticipation of callbacks day by day in the particle board division. And early this morning, the union at the particle board plant held a meeting to urge members to sign up for callbacks.
The company is communicating with us so we can communicate with the members. Mainly trying to keep people away from the plant until everything is, is cleared. It's a blessing to come back and find out that we're going to operate again.
Now, we're hoping that some of the downtown businesses will be operating again. You can see in the distance on the far side of the water, Main Street exposed once again now that the river is receding, but they're having trouble with this water right in front of us on 4th Avenue. That's impounded here. It doesn't have access to the river, and it can't get through the storm drain, so that is still creating a problem. However, good news for retail businesses. They're hoping to set up what they call a downtown village at Pretlow Industrial Park for anybody that wants to go back into business temporarily. They hope to have that up and running by Monday. Back to you.
Well, let the recovery begin. Thank you, Dale Godding, reporting live tonight from Franklin.
Initial estimate.
Road map, but can you find them on a flood map? Tonight we begin with that question. Basically, were the flooded areas of Southampton County on the government's official maps of potential flood zones? 13's Dale Godding joins us now live from Franklin. Dale, you had a chance to pore over the maps. Any surprise findings there?
Well, we found that downtown Franklin was actually in what is considered a B kind of flood zone. That's based on the 1940 flood, which they're calling a 180-year event. The Corps of Engineers, or actually FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, says on those maps that Franklin is doing what it can to control development in the most flood-prone areas. But in Kingsdale, the neighborhood hardest hit in Southampton County, we found that people either didn't know or chose to ignore the fact that they're in a high-risk area. Darnell Lee is looking for snakes in his sister's house before picking up her waterlogged belongings. This was Cynthia Person's house last week when it was still underwater. It's one of about 100 homes flooded in Kingsdale. Virtually none of these people have flood insurance to cover their structures or belongings.
I don't think nobody in this area all the way around think the water will come up this high.
But folk wisdom pales before flood maps. We went to the Corps of Engineers and we looked at a flood insurance study done in 1982. It puts Kingsdale smack in the middle of Zone A, the area most vulnerable to a 100-year flood. But longtime homeowners who haven't seen a flood in 60 years may not have known.
If there's refinancing associated with it, typically a due diligence search when they do their title search will indicate that it's in a flood-prone area, and the person would be informed of that then.
Henry Olds and his wife Vianne opted to skip flood insurance and wound up with a foot of water in their garage where Vianne has a decorating business.
Most of our inventory was damaged. We had floor damage. All my heating and cooling system was damaged.
Now, the worst of the flood zone actually stops back there by Henry Olds' garage. And when they built their house, they actually prepared for what they thought would be a worst-case flood scenario.
We jacked the house up a little higher when we had it constructed to sort of give us a little extra insurance there. So I felt sure we wouldn't ever see anything like this.
But as Kingsdale digs out, and those residents who can rebuild, flood insurance may be part of the package.
Because it could happen next week, next month, 2 years from now, who knows?
And that, of course, is the risk you take when you don't spend the money to buy flood insurance. The same story goes for Burdett. Much of Burdett, the community we visited last Friday, is in the A flood zone. The house where we visited is about 100 yards outside of the A flood zone. They thought they could get away with it, and they did not. Regina?
Thanks, Dale. So here's what it means to you, especially if you're in the market to buy a house. Do some research in the area. Contact the Army Corps of Engineers and City or County Engineering Department to see if the property is in a floodplain. Talk to your insurance agent about the various options for flood coverage. And remember, the storm surge map included in the SkyMax hurricane tracking chart is different from the FEMA flood maps. The surge map does not take into account rainfall and runoff, just the tidal surge from a tropical system. Students in Franklin, now that they've returned to classes, most high school students arrived in high spirits today. The schools have counselors on hand to help children with the emotions of dealing with the flood, and police officers are at each school to help with communications. The phone service is still limited. The Franklin School Board is expected to decide in October on a makeup schedule for the 8 days missed during the disaster. In North Carolina,
Today, students went back to school for the first time since the town was overrun by floodwaters nearly 2 weeks ago. People in Franklin have gotten another so-called staple, ATM machines. 3 temporary machines are now set up at the Southampton Hospital. And in the downtown Franklin business section, people are finding something new every day, and it's not good. News Channel 3's Ed Hughes is live in Franklin with more on that part of the story. Ed?
Well, Tom, I'll tell you what's going on here. They're still evaluating the damage in downtown Franklin, and that's going to be ongoing for quite some time because the business owners want to get back in, want to get back open, get back in business. But unfortunately, the worst is not yet over. From News Chopper 3, it appears Franklin is returning to normal. Walk its streets and you see a much different story. People had hopes, now turned to fears. It's not a rebuilding process here, it's starting over.
Anything that was wooden, oil paintings, any canvas, metal items might be salvageable, but that's about it. That's about all I can salvage out of it.
You going to stay?
I'm planning on it.
Floodwaters can do some strange things. For example, here's a wine glass that was probably floating in 9 feet of water. When the water receded, perfectly set, but in the door. International Paper is the heart of Franklin. Fred's Restaurant is the pulse. Today, there is none in downtown, but there is movement. Some folks will return, some won't.
Devastation. It was just overwhelming. I just stood there for 5 minutes and looked. It was absolutely unbelievable. Looked like someone had thrown a bomb in here.
Debris and waste everywhere. It must be cleared quickly, especially the spoiled food, for health reasons. Business owners are hoping for the best from the insurance adjusters. Okay. And the big thing here tonight, of course, is to get that spoiled food out from the restaurants, out from the grocery stores in the downtown district, because the health situation is the #1 concern right now. Reporting live from Franklin, Virginia, Ed Hughes, News Channel 3.
It is still amazing, Ed, how much damage that water actually did in Franklin. Thanks so much for that live report.
Well, a local delivery man.
Actually, you see people. They are back at work. So is 24-year veteran Marvin Bynum.
Things are looking good. We got a lot of cleaning up to do. And after that, we'll get back to work.
Feel good to be back, huh?
Oh, yes.
Doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but not doing what they would normally do.
90% of the workforce now back on the clock, but not making paper. They're cleaning up, pumping out water, checking electrical systems.
They all have phased operations for cleaning up. We're pulling motors, we're pulling pumps. We are cleaning debris out of the facilities.
Workers have been told the plant could be down anywhere from 1 to 4 months. Alan Baker's worked here 14 years.
The environmental people have been in there and checked out a lot of, but you got a lot of oily films. Everything that you tear out, you got to clean, wash first before you bring it outside. Then you got your insurance people coming in and looking at it, so we got to itemize it, write it down.
Worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah, you know, this community, this facility was not prepared for some disaster such as this.
And that was Andy Fox in Franklin tonight. Now, this week, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is issuing emergency food stamps to Franklin families affected by the floods. Residents can apply at the temporary office on South Street. Applications are also being taken through Thursday. The floods have also affected food stamp distribution for One Hampton Road City. And On Your Side has that story coming up a little later in the newscast.
Children in Virginia Beach are and other necessities to school with them. What the kids may not understand is the logistics of getting those supplies into the hands of the people who need them. Teachers tell 10 On Your Side they have praised the children for their contributions, but haven't had the heart to tell them right now there's no way to get them delivered.
We've had to call around, call different areas, asking them. Knights of Columbus, Operation Blessing, Salvation Army, we're calling around trying to see if we've done the work to collect the goods, if someone can come and pick them up and transport them to the families in Franklin that we're trying to help.
If you can help the children complete their mission, please call Pembroke Elementary School tomorrow during business hours. Here's the number, 473-5025.
Uncle Sam wants new recruits.
It'll clear in the minds of the residents there. Now another threat. News Channel 3's Bob Matthews is live in Franklin. Bob, are people there worried?
Leanne, they're worried, but they're not really doing too much about it, even as the clouds roll in from the west and the drizzle starts. As you can see, they are still cleaning up in downtown, the heavy machinery there on the streets. It's just gotten finished for the day as downtown is once again closed now that it is 6 o'clock. But as far as the rain that is coming here goes, residents and city officials in Franklin, and for that matter, all of Southampton County, aren't making any special preparations. They figure the damage is already done, so they're just going to let Mother Nature take its course. With the Blackwater River back within its banks, Franklin city officials are content to roll the dice, betting what rain does come won't present a flood problem here. Sound risky? Not really, according to Mayor Jim Council, since the damage has already been done.
There's really nothing we can do. The river's down substantially. We don't think that an inch will hurt us, but we don't want any more rain right now.
Franklin's more immediate concern is relief. Residents needing emergency food stamps were online again today, hoping for some help to replace staples lost to the flood.
They're taking applications today and tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day, and they can, you can do it, fill out an application at the Social Services temporary site at the Sportsman's Club on South Street.
The only possible drawback is that it's a little too popular. There are so many people in need, the line stretches from here at the front door all the way around to the end of the building and beyond. People have been waiting up to 3 hours in some cases, but the ones we talked to said they really don't mind. What do you think they're going to be able to help you with today? How much do you think they'll be able to give you?
I don't know. I just want to be surprised.
Every little bit helps, right?
Yes, it does.
Now, as for International Paper, which has been shut down since this flooding, I talked to some city officials who told me that about half of the employees appear to be back at work right now. IP expects to be up and running and making paper again within a few weeks. Also, late word tonight, the Virginia Employment Commission has set up an office at International Paper's Recycling Center. That is for anyone who has worked in Franklin. And as for the food stamp office, if you need assistance from the food stamp office, tomorrow is the last day you can go down there and fill out an application for assistance. We're live in downtown Franklin tonight. Bob Matthews, News Channel 3.
All right, thanks, Bob. Now, there is also some more good news coming out of Franklin tonight. Phone service is expected to be restored by the weekend. A trailer village made up of downtown Franklin businesses should be set up by the weekend. It's going to temporarily house flooded-out businesses in the Pretlow Industrial Park. There's no word on when it will be open to the public, but News Channel 3 has learned that at least 18 businesses are planning to be in that village.
Tonight, the Virginia Department of Transportation says so far it will cost an estimated $30 million to repair state roads from Hurricane Floyd, and it expects that tab to go up. VDOT has not had time to rest. With more rain in the forecast, crews are on alert. Teams are working around the clock to repair major and primary roads. Right now, they're on the back roads of Southampton County repairing small bridges, roads, and drainage pipes. The weather has been on their side since Floyd struck about 10 days ago, but that could change.
We certainly don't want to hear that, but we've got a couple hundred crews in from all over the state and a lot of equipment, and so we're ready for it if something happens.
VDOT says it has made tremendous progress reopening roads and hopes its good fortune will continue. In other words, folks, dry skies is what they're hoping for. Tonight, Suffolk Fire...
So much because of this flood. There's also a lot of homeowners who've lost a lot too. We caught up with one homeowner who says he's not getting cooperation from anybody. As water crews prepare Pretlow Industrial Park for a makeshift temporary business park, as GTE puts in a switcher for over 1,000 phone lines for computers and faxes, there are residents like Frank Puccini. He's not a business owner, but he's lost everything.
How you doing?
He, wife Tanya, and 2 kids finally back in school now, called Days Inn, room 123, home.
I've got to leave in 4 minutes to go get the boys.
Okay, well, trying to get some more answers right now. I couldn't get any right now.
So this is where you all live now?
Yes, it is.
This is our home. And the city of Franklin has not told us anything or done anything for us. And I don't know how they can say on news reports, these residents are back in their homes, everybody's pulling together. Well, nobody's pulled for us.
The Puccinis are frustrated. They've been told nothing and only got back into their home because they sneaked in.
The rest of the wood floors buckled up, furniture sagged and destroyed, dining room furniture in the living room furniture in the kitchen, turned upside down, refrigerators, rotten food.
They can't even get mail.
I go from Holland, I go from Belk, I go to the trailer, I go to an abandoned building.
And they say what?
Nobody there to talk to.
So you don't have any mail?
No mail, no phone, no communications, no...
Home?
No home. This is the master bedroom. This is the kids' room. We have one boy, yeah, this is a sofa bed, but one child sleeping on the sofa. We have this fold-out for the other to sleep on. I'm supposed to be the strong one through all this. I have to explain to them what's happened to our old home, why they can't go back to it, and I can't tell them that because the city's not telling me.
Meantime, last night at 6, we told you about a Virginia Beach school collecting food and other goods for the Franklin flood victims. Pembroke Elementary started its drive last week. Parents, students, and teachers have brought in canned food, cleaning supplies, and clothing, but they couldn't figure out how to get it to the goods to the Franklin people. After 10 on Your Side aired the story, the school got more than 70 calls from people offering to help. A group of Shriners has agreed to take everything to Franklin on Friday.
Don't get taken to the cleaners. I'm Sherry Richardson.
Bill. Today, the governor was in Franklin taking a look at what Hurricane Floyd left behind. News Channel 3's Ed Hughes has been following this story, and he joins us live now from Franklin with the very latest. Ed?
Well, Tom, it's a very bright and sunny day here in Franklin, Virginia. It's been that way all day. That's good news. This is one of the checkpoints directly behind me here, and it's been one of the busiest that we've seen in recent time. And that's because they allowed the assurance adjusters to go on in with the business owners to downtown Franklin. The slow process of rebuilding has begun, and there was good news today for the folks in Franklin, and it came from Governor Jim Gilmore.
There you are. I'm Jim Gilmore. How you doing?
The governor made his second appearance on Main Street, this time to announce the activation of the State Disaster Recovery Task Force. He also said an additional $1.4 million has been approved for flood redevelopment and flood recovery. Folks here have developed a get-tough attitude and a determination just as tough as Hurricane Floyd. Give up?
Oh, no, I don't ever give up. No, none of us give up. No, we don't ever give up. We will help. We're not giving in. We will help Glenna and Ed as much as we possibly can to get things going again.
Hundreds of volunteers clearing the rubble from all of the businesses in downtown Franklin. Private and state agencies hauling it all away. Everything must be inspected.
Before any of the business were allowed, the safety coordinators came down and monitored every building to make sure that they were free of any hazards as far as atmospheric testing.
The health hazard is a concern, but not as bad as it was on Monday. Downtown Franklin is alive, but still not well. Governor Gilmore offered additional support.
My thoughts, my material help, the work of all of our agencies, and maybe most of all, my prayers for your successful recovery are with you. Thank you very much for the chance to be here with you today.
The business owners are allowed downtown during the daylight hours only, but it's a 24-hour operation down there as the cleanup crews work throughout the night. They've brought in generators and portable lights. The good news from the phone company today, they expect service to be restored 90% by tomorrow, perhaps 100% by Sunday. Reporting live from downtown Franklin, Ed Hughes, News Channel 3.
Folks in Franklin, obviously, Ed can use some good news. Thanks so much for that live report. Ed has been finally allowed back into the downtown area wearing protective gear. They ventured back into their stores and homes to see the damage left behind by Floyd's floods. Men returned to find home and store windows and doors blown out, caked on mud lining the insides of buildings. And Tuesday, after nearly 2 weeks off, students and teachers finally got to return to school. Staff and administrators vowed to help those students who were hit hard by flooding. Also this week, more immediate concern was addressed as residents lined up again for emergency food stamps and to apply for disaster relief from the federal government. And cleanup continues into this weekend. As Ed Hughes just mentioned, phone service is expected to be restored, and a trailer village made up of downtown Franklin businesses should be set up. Tonight, a cleaning expert says people whose homes or businesses were flooded out are probably trying to save too many of their belongings. News Channel 3's Nate Custer is live in Newport News, where the man in the know...
Randy, meantime, folks in North Carolina bounties for big drug dealers. The State Board of Elections plans to send ID cards
severely injured. Human error appears to be the cause of the Japanese accident, and the same training programs are used for workers at American facilities.
Some tense moments at the Commerce Department in Washington after a fire that sent 48 people to the...
For as little as $5 or $6 a room, are you perhaps considering doing it? Well, before you do, you might ask yourself, how could any business afford to do it at that price? We wondered, so we made an appointment with one of the companies, and we set up our hidden cameras. Wait until you see what Arnold Diaz found.
911 Emergency Police Department. I need an officer here.
A 911 emergency call brings police out to a St. Louis home. The threat, the caller says, not an armed robber, but an aggressive carpet cleaner.
What's going on at your location? I could not get the person to leave here who was cleaning the carpet.
In fact, 3 customers have called the police to get the Master Clean carpet cleaning company out of their homes.
They don't take no for an answer.
The coupon Sonia Ketcherside got in the mail advertised carpet cleaning at $6.95 a room. But the cleaner, she says, tried to raise the price to over $900 and wouldn't leave when she told them,
I'm not spending anything more than $34.75, so if you can't clean my carpets, get out of my house.
chances are you've received coupons like these in the mail. Similar-looking coupons are being used by carpet cleaning companies all over the country. The problem is, experts say,
Too often, the fantastic deals advertised, $5, $6, $7 a room, are literally too good to be true. These coupons may be the bait for a bait-and-switch scheme.
You will never see a coupon in any way, shape, or form with prices that low from a professional carpet cleaner.
Certified carpet cleaning expert Joe Polish says a company would lose money at those low coupon prices.
Cannot be done. And if they do clean it for that, you're going to get a lousy job.
So we decided to see for ourselves. We had St. Louis homeowner Molly Smith make an appointment with Master Clean. When their cleaner named Matt arrived, not only was Molly there, but so was our expert Joe Polish in disguise.
I had the coupon for $6.95.
When Molly asked for the $6.95 special, the first thing Matt did was try to talk her out of it. While the coupon promises the steam clean keeps it clean, Matt told her that's not really true.
The steam clean just, put the hot water, and sucks a little bit of dirt up.
He demonstrated the steam clean, running the machine briefly over a patch of carpet with not very impressive results. Then Matt demonstrated what he called the deep scrub method, first spraying on a preconditioner, raking it through the carpet, then applying the suction. It costs a little more, he said, but gets the carpet a lot cleaner.
Go get your carpet looking pretty much brand new like it was when you bought it.
He even showed Molly and Joe how much dirtier the water was after the deep scrub. The demonstration was convincing. The question is, was it legitimate? We don't know if Matt's was, but experts say many are not.
The demonstration you're saying is actually rigged.
Oh, absolutely. It has to be.
Vince Davis says he quit working for a bait-and-switch carpet cleaner in Arizona, unwilling to use their dirty tricks. Those tricks, he says, included secretly turning off the suction mechanism while demonstrating the low-price steam clean, so no dirt was being extracted.
I didn't do anything there. I just ran the wand over it and I got it wet. I actually made it worse.
Then, when demonstrating the more expensive deep scrub method, he says they might make it look even better by pulling the dirty water trick.
This is what I got out of your carpet, Mr. Homeowner. Homeowner's going to look at this and go, wow.
Look at all that dirt in there.
That's such a difference. Well, yeah, you're looking at a lot of dirt, but it's not your dirt. But you have no way of knowing that.
That dirt, he says, instead of coming from your carpet, may have been dumped into the tank by the cleaner before he came to your home. There's no evidence that Matt from Master Clean used any of those tricks, but he did neglect to spray any preconditioner on the carpet before demonstrating the steam clean.
You just don't clean a carpet and not precondition it. That's part of the cleaning.
Okay.
That's like buying a car without an engine.
The demonstration, say the experts, is designed to convince you to forget about the coupon special and agree to the higher price cleaning. How much more will it cost you? The first price they quote is usually a shocker, but that's all part of the well-rehearsed scheme.
The deep scrub method and the
What was Master Clean's estimate to deep scrub Molly's 5 rooms? A lot more than the advertised steam clean for $34.75.
And the total came to about $577.27 with tax.
$577?
Wow, I wasn't prepared for that.
Many customers balk at the first price, a price experts say is often a setup to make you think you're getting a bargain when the company then lowers the estimate.
They think it's a little much, a little too much.
Matt called his office and after a few minutes on the phone said the boss was willing to give Molly a better deal.
We could get for $350, do all the carpet, get the Teflon protection.
And when Molly said no to $350, the boss agreed to drop the price even further.
He actually just told me we could go ahead and do it for $195 now.
$195? That's some discount, and many customers might be tempted, but not Molly.
I'm not prepared to do anything besides what the coupon said.
Would the company do the advertised steam clean at $6.95 a room? After almost an hour of haggling, Matt finally agreed to give us the coupon deal. But just as expert Joe Polish predicted, we got a lousy job.
They didn't pre-vacuum the carpet. They didn't precondition the carpet. They didn't pre-spot the carpet. So this cleaner followed none of the standards that a professional carpet cleaner should follow.
Even worse, look what happened when Polish rubbed a towel on the carpet only minutes after the job was done. Why didn't the cleaning get this dirt out? Probably because the cleaner didn't use any cleaning solution. How do we know that? We asked him.
Excuse me, sir. I'm Arnold Diaz from ABC News 2020. How you doing? We were wondering about this so-called cleaning of the carpet because it doesn't seem like you were cleaning it. It seems like you were just getting it wet.
No.
Were you using a cleaning solution?
We use it's like a deodorizer kind of thing. It's mostly hot
cleaning
water.
solution.
It's not an actual cleaning solution.
Well, wouldn't it be better if you used a cleaning solution?
It could be a little better.
Well, how come you don't use a cleaning solution?
I don't know, because I actually don't have one to put in the machine.
That's right. Matt told us the company didn't give him any cleaning solution. Not only that, he said the reason he didn't pre-vacuum the carpet is that the company didn't give him a vacuum cleaner either.
You don't have a vacuum with you.
Right.
And what about the long, drawn-out price negotiations he put Molly through? Matt admitted there's a purpose to all that.
Why start with the $577 if it's then going to come down to $350 and then down to $195? What's that all about?
Psychology.
Psychology? So the person that pays $577 is a real sucker.
I guess so.
Is Master Clean in the business of making suckers out of its customers? We later went to the company's headquarters to find out.
Can we just ask a few questions?
No, thank you.
No comments on the ad or the performance?
Performance? No. You can go outside.
All the problems we had?
You can go outside.
Off camera, owner Tom Dickerson told me their technician Matt should have used a cleaning solution. And what about the almost 200 Better Business Bureau complaints against Master Clean, including people who paid outrageous prices up to $1,775? The company blames those on the previous owners and insists it does not engage in bait and switch, that many jobs are done at the coupon price. As for Matt, he later told us he was new on the job and soon quit because he didn't like how Master Clean operates. But it's not just Master Clean. Davis says most companies advertising rock-bottom prices will do anything to avoid honoring them.
You either have to do really dishonest things, or you have to starve.
The bottom line, say experts, beware of cut-rate coupons. Not only is it tough to get the advertised special, chances are it won't leave your carpet very clean. Even worse, you might encounter a bait-and-switch carpet cleaner who won't take no for an answer.
I told him that I was tired of being taken advantage of. They told me $78 on the phone. They got over here, it was $470.
Okay, the police will be over in a second to talk to you.
Well, we still have questions. So Arnold Diaz joins us. Arnold, after watching this, why don't I just clean my own carpet?
You can, and a lot of people do. You can rent these cleaning machines at supermarkets, and they come with cleaning solution. However, they're not as powerful as professional machines, and I got to tell you, it's a tough job to clean your own carpets.
Okay, so what should it cost to have the average room cleaned by a professional?
According to the experts, a minimum $20 to $30 a room. There are extras in addition to that. Scotchgard, Teflon, deodorizer. Could be hundreds of dollars. $34.75 for 5 rooms, not likely.
So the only thing it might clear out is your wallet.
You got it.
Thank you, Arnold. Well, if you want more information, visit our website at abcnews.com. We'll be right back.